love anymore. Rumor has it. She is half your age, but I'm guessing that's the reason that you stayed. I heard you've been missing me. You've been telling people things you shouldn't be. Like when we creep out, she ain't around. Haven't you heard the rumors? Bless your soul, you got your head in the clouds. You made a fool out of me, and boy, you're bringing me down. You made my heart melt, and I'm cold to the core. But rumor has it I'm the one you're leaving her for. Rumor has it. 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 All of these words whispered in my ear tell a story that I cannot bear to hear. Just 'cause I said it, it don't mean that I meant it. People say crazy things. Just 'cause I said it, don't mean that I meant it. Just 'cause you.
Welcome, everyone. Please take your seats. The show is about to begin.
But rumor has it he's the one I'm leaving you for. People, can't you see and know what is really going on? It's the same old thing, it's nothing new. More than 2,000 years ago, the good Lord sent me from Zion. The good Lord, He sent me down. The good Lord sent me from Zion. The good Lord, He sent me down.
Welcome, everyone. Please take your seats. The show is about to begin.
All my days I've lived in misery, wishing one day Zion, you send me down. The good Lord, you send me down. The good Lord, you send me down. The good Lord from Zion. The good Lord from Zion.
Hello, I'm Nick Clooney. As someone who has spent my career in television and film, I'm deeply aware of the power of film. But while many films entertain us, there are a few that actually change us. When you become aware of these stories about people who move through the world differently, you'll leave perceiving your world differently. That's the power of ReelAbilities.
Please welcome to the stage legendary television personality Nick Clooney and Boardwalk Empire's Nick Novicki.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey.
I've got to tell you, you never know how old you are until you see yourself on film. Isn't that the truth? Why?
Yeah.
It is great to be with you, and we're thrilled to have all of you here with us. Have you met Nick? Yeah.
Hey.
Nick and Nick. Hey, Nick.
Nick and Nick. You know, it is great being in this town, and it's a pleasure to be up here with you today, Nick.
Well, I feel just exactly the same way. They have to write everything down I say anymore. Let's see. Hello, I'm Nick Clooney. Yeah, I got that. Okay, I got that part down. Well, it's great. I've got to tell you that we hope you think this is a good place to be.
Oh, it is. It's been amazing so far. I'm having a blast here. Love Cincinnati.
And wait till he tries. Yeah. Wait until he tastes the Cincinnati chili. Huh?
Ooh, I'm ready. Believe me.
Oh man. Okay. Well, you have quite a string of accomplishments, Nick. You think The Sopranos, Boardwalk Empire. It's amazing.
Wow. So you're familiar with my work?
I'm familiar with the shows.
See,
but-
I figured. You know, I'm at the stage in my career where I get recognized, but people don't know what they know me from. You know, I had someone come up to me and said, I'm such a fan. Oh my God, I love your work. What do I know you from? And then she started naming things. You know, she was like, I loved you in Bad Santa. I was like, he was black. No, but in all seriousness, I'm just trying to get to the stage of my career where people start sending me free stuff so that they can have me wearing their stuff and it looks cool for them. I'm not there yet, though. I'm not
You mean
there.
you bought that suit?
I did.
Oh, okay.
I did. But I'm sure, Nick, you're at the stage in your career where you don't have to deal with that at all right now, huh?
Yeah, not at all. It's a 60 years a reporter, and what happens when I go out in public? I get, hey, aren't you related to, didn't you used to be...
Wait, are you related to someone important?
I'm Matt Damon's father. Didn't you know that?
All jokes aside, congratulations on your grandbabies. Come on, give them a round of applause. Congratulations to, you know, I just found out that his grandkids have been named official UN human rights ambassadors already. So.
Yeah, well, I don't doubt that at all. At any rate, I do want you to know that Nina and I are so glad that we are now the world's oldest grandparents. Our other grandchildren are 22 and 26 years old. Oh, boy.
That's amazing. And it's great that hopefully you'll be able to get them back into the Cincinnati, Kentucky area because, I mean, you guys really have the most amazing culture and food, and the people are so nice. I was walking down the street, and some lady was just staring at me, like, smiling, you know, and I was just like, boy, because she's smiling so hard. I was like, is she trying to fight me right now? What's going on? I'm not used to people so friendly, but there really are great people here.
You're certainly right. This event is very much emblematic of that, I think. And look at all of you folks out here. I've been wandering out to say hello to those of you who have been here so many times, and some are coming to us for the very first time. Saw Teddy Kremer here, didn't you? He's here. We've got, he's the talk of the town always. And we have the mayor here and commissioners here, and thank you very much for being here. And Lauren Potter from Glee, just said hello to her, and that's so great. And Jamie Brewer from American Horror Story, and Jeff Harris, you invented this thing. Yeah, you're in charge indeed, and we're really only here today because of Jeff.
Yeah, that's great. Well, let's get this started. What do you say, guys? What do you
Let's
say?
go to the movies. What do you think?
And what better way to get this started than seeing some of the amazing films that you'll be seeing over the course of the weekend? So please help me welcome Kurt Yeager. He's an accomplished actor, all-around good guy. And from what I understand, he was actually a supporter of this festival since the beginning. So please, a round of applause for Kurt Yeager and yourselves,
Nick,
and this legend
you're
right
the best.
here.
You're the best.
The Nick and Nick Show.
What the hell's going on? I thought I told you to split.
Yeah, we tried. Hunter came by the house this morning, spotted Go-Go.
You killed her! It was an accident! Tell that to the DA!
You a Yankee. Award for you.
Please welcome to the stage NCIS and Sons of Anarchy star Kurt Yeager.
Thank you. I did not know my head could get any bigger. It is on there. It's huge. Anyways, thanks, Nick and Nick. I don't know if you guys know, one of the Nicks is amazing. Yeah, he might be related to someone, Darfur or whatever, but he did this show called The Money Maze. Did you guys see that? You remember that? It was a show that lasted for a little while, and it was absolutely amazing. I got to do some research on it before I came, and blown away. And then the other Nick, he does the Easter Seals Disability Film Challenge, and he is a force to be reckoned with. So give those guys a round of applause real quick. So, good afternoon. I am very excited to be a part of this event now for the third year. I have got to see this grow, and it's been absolutely amazing. As both Nick stated, you guys have such a family environment here, and what you do with this festival feels so organic and so natural that every time I come here, I'm actually considering moving. Like, it's absolutely fantastic because not only do you have a great town, but you guys, they mentioned the ways that you guys can make chili. I mean, the 3-way, the 4 ways, you guys have too many ways. I can't even count them. I mean, how is that like your thing, right? It's like what you guys do. But absolutely amazing. And I've seen the growth of the city. I've seen the riverbank. I've seen you guys develop things since 2013. And you should be really proud because I'm blown away by that. But mainly because of the family environment that you all have here and this disability event. I mean, you guys know how much your support matters? Like, really? Do you realize that? Like, you all here are individually supporting this event. And I wanted to thank you guys, each and every one of you. Thank you very much. So speaking of this wonderful film festival, I am honored to introduce the first 2 films. The first film trailer that we're going to see explores mental health challenges from a unique perspective because the man who wrote and directed this film himself is bipolar. It serves as a powerful perspective for those trying to support their loved ones with a mental illness. The film is called Touch with Fire, and this film is presented by Interact for Health and Benefits Urban NAMI, or NAMI. And then, I don't know if you know this about me, but my background, I was a professional X Games athlete, so I did double backflips over 40-foot jumps and stuff like that till I lost my leg in an accident. And then I went back to the X Games and was the first amputee to ever do a backflip over any jumps, and a bunch of silly things like that, and then the film stuff. But as a professional BMXer, this second film is extremely close to my heart. It's called Tin Soldiers, and it's presented by Huntington Bank, and it's benefiting the Spina Bifida Coalition. And it's a really, truly beautiful documentary about the power of the human spirit to adapt. So let's take a look at these 2 videos, and thank you very much.
Hey.
Hi.
Okay?
Yeah.
I know it's 1 in the morning.
I just wanted to talk.
They call me Luna.
Luna!
Fire went out last night.
Because my mind moves in tune with the lunar shifts. They call me a lunatic.
Sun burnt on the tip of the
Harley,
matchstick.
what's going on?
Ticks down to the minute the full moon's lit.
Going up in flames.
Hey, Dad. What happened to your apartment?
I'm just trying to figure out who I am, even when I go on here. I saw myself involuntarily last night. Yes, you can't keep me here. Still not allowed to be released. No.
This is a hospital for sick people. I'm not sick. I can understand why you'd be here. You look very sick to me. There's no life in your face.
Somewhere.
We have 2 new people today, Emily and Marco.
I go by Luna, my poet's name.
You accidentally checked yourself into a mental institution.
For just one night.
We of the craft are all crazy. You know who said that? We're not from here, you and me. These crazy connections between bipolar and artistic genius.
Is it true that neither of you thinks you're from this planet? Marco, you're not healthy for one another.
I don't think it's such a bad thing to feel life with the deepest emotion.
You have to trust me right now. You can't listen to him. It's an illness. It needs to be treated.
So you mean insanity is love? You have to be crazy to be in love? I want the mania.
You're not willing to make any sacrifices.
Are we a mistake, Carla? Are we a mistake?
closer to each other they moved, the brighter they shined, as we raced through the days on that flame.
I always drive with my leg. I don't know why. Like, yeah. No, look, see my hands on the gas. We're switch lanes with it. Watch this. Ain't nothing, baby. Ain't nothing. I don't remember, when I was just like, man, I don't have no legs, I remember I fell down one time. I had prosthetics in 6th grade, and I fell down and I hit my head like a bookshelf. And I was like, holy shit, like I'm a little different than everybody. That was the first time I ever felt like it was really different. But other than that, I've been pretty much living a normal life for, I guess, a guy with no legs.
Abel has spina bifida, myelomeningous cell, which means at birth his spinal cord was open. The back of the cord was actually visible at birth, which leaves a defect level basically of paralyzation. I did have one doctor that totally gave me horrible news, basically told me you have to wonder what his quality of life would be. I was told to abort my pregnancy, and my thoughts on that were I wouldn't get a new doctor.
People say that I have God-given talent. I'm just incredibly fortunate. While I was given this risk-taker mentality, it's also the reason that I'm in a wheelchair today. It's really about mind control. You have to send it and believe 100%.
Someone can't come take that from me, my feelings. From a disability standpoint, you have to grow a little more than the average person on the inside.
It just kind of helps me cope with everything, whether I'm happy, sad, angry, laughing, which I'm always laughing.
I have a T12 spinal cord injury, which left my left leg paralyzed. And I can't stand skating. You'll see how I skate on my board.
No matter what the disability is, no matter what the depression is, not all disabilities are visible. The second you put limitations on them, you are destroying their future.
Please welcome our next presenter, honorary festival co-chair, Mayor John Cranley.
I am so excited to be here for this festival. Thank you, Kurt, for your kind words regarding the greatest city on earth, Cincinnati, and congratulations on all your success. I'd like to introduce Jamie Brewer, star of American Horror Story, and invite her to join me on stage.
How many times do we have to have this conversation? You gotta stop coming by the station.
This is your last chance.
I'm not taking you to the movies.
Is it my dress?
That's why people dress up, to scare away the ghosts.
No way I ever want to be a ghost. It's so sad.
What are you gonna dress up as this year, Addie?
I hear something.
I just killed the woman store with my powers just now, and I will kill you. That'll take him in, Chester!
She made me do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, American Horror Stories, Jamie Brewer.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Wow, that's scary.
Yeah. Knowing that it's with you in politics, me in film as horror.
Oh, jeez. Don't we have a film to introduce or something? In all seriousness, Jamie, we are glad to have you here today. You and I get to kick off 4 very special days for our city. 4 days of films, celebrities, parties, and events that celebrate diversity in film, art, and business. The Cincinnati ReelAbilities Film Festival is organized by a great local nonprofit called LAD. Let's give a round of applause for LAD. Led in part by my good friend Susan Brown Knight, and of course, I also want to give a shout out to Jeff Harris, who introduced this to me many years ago, which you will hear a bit about later. And the festival's mission is to celebrate the stories, lives, and art of people who experience disability and difference. I also want to take a minute to thank my colleague who is at my table today, who has many abilities, Councilman Kevin Flynn. Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you all for being here. And as mayor, this is like Sundance or Cannes. We have the world headquarters. We are the ReelAbilities Film Festival for the whole world. And it's only going to grow in time, and it is going to be a part of the Cincinnati story. So thank you, Candlelight. Thank you, Saul Schottenstein Foundation and the Hale Foundation for presenting today, and to all of Cincinnati business leaders that make the next 4 days possible. Without a doubt, you are helping us to make the city more inclusive and better.
And thank you, by the way.
Yeah.
We are also going to now, even though I know some people are getting ready to eat, we're going to send you off to lunch. And with one more great film that is also featured in this year's festival. The story of a group of friends looking for an adventure and also new experiences in life.
Yes, it's a story of a father and a son, of the sadness that comes from a parent's lost dreams, and the triumph that awaits when a father can truly see his son for the first time. It is called The Finishers.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage LAD's Executive Director, Susan Brown Knight.
Hello. Welcome back, everyone. We're going to still be serving a little bit while I share a little bit about LAD, the organization behind this festival, so feel free to keep eating. We have some great speakers ahead, so I will move through this quickly. I would like to take a moment to talk about LAD and why we have invested so much in, of all things, a film festival. Our mission cannot be achieved without all of you, nor can it be done without the partners we have in this room. I realize that LAD is spearheading this, but you have to understand the need for what we do is so great that we could not do it without our well-respected and established peers who, in so many ways, make this event what it is. Peers like the Greater Cincinnati Down Syndrome Association, Easter Seals, Envision, Ohio Valley Residential Services, 4 Paws for Ability, Visionaries and Voices, Melodic Connections, and May We Help. They are just some of the groups that benefit from the films you will be seeing throughout this festival. As you saw from the video, at LAD we are big believers in planning as well as executing on those plans. Our vision for the next 5 years to ensure that the hundreds of adults with developmental disabilities we support every single day enjoy what we refer to as the dignity of adulthood. The dignity of adulthood can take on a lot of forms. For example, and many of us are parents of small children, as you're negotiating with your 3-year-old that in fact she does need to wear clothes to preschool. We're not talking about that type of dignity, which is often compromised. This is not the dignity for which I speak. I am talking about the rights and privileges many of us take for granted, but which many people with developmental disabilities fight for every single day. The right to love, the right to make mistakes, to work, to live on their own, and to be treated with respect and valued by society in daily living. There are 4 legs, thank you, that's exactly right. There are 4 legs to this platform to pursue the dignity of adulthood for all over the next 5 years, and those are employment, housing, independence, and social equality. The first leg, employment, needs little explanation, except to say hiring people with disabilities is not the right thing, just the right thing to do. It is the smart thing to do. We have partnered with the Chamber of Commerce in coordination with Easter Seals and the Down Syndrome Association to help lead a national pilot to further disability employment in our small businesses. But regardless of the size of your business, consider hiring. The return on investment is there. As an employer, I can say that personally, but don't take my word for it. Ask Contemporary Coventry East, who is here, Tyson Krupp, Candlelight, Mercy Health, Fifth Third Bank, P&G, 3CDC, and Dinsmore. And of course, Kroger, who is here and broke ground in this area so many years ago in our community. Please take a look at the back page of your program and reach out. That is my ask of you today. Consider the move to hire somebody, a move that will truly benefit your business. And so we can get back to the movies. I will touch briefly on the other pillars that make up our 5-year vision: independence, housing, and social equality. The need for our services is growing faster than any of us can keep up. Our independent living apartments have a years-long waiting list. And with 1 in 50 boys born on the autism spectrum, it is only going to grow. Society thinking differently about disability is not a matter of if, it is a matter of when. So, as a community, we can have the rules dictated to us, or collectively, we can lead the way on inclusion. We can recognize that when people with disabilities move into our neighborhoods, that this is a stabilizing force for good, that often you will have a neighbor who is committed to connecting the community and the neighbors and staying local. And relative to technology, which is a critical component of this, the opportunities brought to us by the Internet of Things, the interconnection between all of our stuff, provides us with tools to serve people better. We must start incorporating cutting-edge technology with our compassionate and highly trained staff to provide for greater independence and growth. How many of us have learned our life lessons from succeeding? It is normally the failures along the way that teach us best, the ones where you probably should have known better or got lost. The ones that you have probably should have known better, the relationships that probably were not in your best judgment, or the road trip where you got lost. There are one of a million mistakes that we make that allow us to know what we are capable of, that allow us to know we can return from heartache, that we can find our way out when we are lost. So often, when you are staffed 24/7, or you are staffed the majority of the time, people are denied the messiness of life. Technology utilizes strategically the possibility that everybody can have time alone. Everybody can make mistakes but remain safe. and be self-reliant. Finally, we are here today because when you know someone's story, it is difficult not to assign value for what they bring to the table. Social equity is born from understanding, and film has the unique power to give us an intimate window into a new perspective. Hopefully, this festival makes you feel more connected to each other. For although we feature stories you don't see in mainstream media, the challenges often seem quite unique. The sentiment is universal. You might not know what it is to be autistic or to be an amputee, but you know what it is to love, to lose, to grow, and to triumph. That is what this festival is about. So we invite you on this journey the next 4 days. Together, we are building a community that welcomes all. Thank you. And with that, I would like to turn it over to our next speaker, Emmy Award-winning director, Zoe Wesson.
Thank you, Susan. And God bless you for being able to get through that speech. That was a serious speech. It's great to be here. And you know, film in Cincinnati is growing. So much is happening in our community. And as a filmmaker, I could not be more proud that we have finally added this incredible film festival to the host of art offerings in this amazing city. Give it up for Cincinnati! Cincinnati! Now, between Cincinnati State, UC, and NKU, we are all investing in film development. And I don't mean actually like developing film, because we use digital a lot now. I'm talking about developing the technology for you to make films and tell stories. And even though we call it films, it's mostly electronic video, but it looks like film. So that's what we're talking about. And Film Cincinnati has brought huge films and stars to our cities, furthering our economy and deepening our relationship with the industry. With that, I have the unique privilege of introducing my co-presenter, actress, artist, and advocate, and superstar, Lauren Potter, ladies and gentlemen. Lauren Potter.
Your name is Jonah, right?
Yeah.
So why does your shirt say John H. Ryan?
Hey, Beck, I'm here to see Sue.
Do you have an appointment?
No.
Then get out, bitch!
It's okay, Becky. Send him in.
I like Artie now. What do I do, Coach?
You can ask him out on a date. Worst he could say is no.
True that.
What do you want to do when you grow up?
5'10". Coach, you gotta be a great mom. I had Artie first, biatch. You get my zombie seconds. Oh, no! Sue wants you to have this. She says she hopes it rubs in your face.
Please welcome to the stage actress Lauren Potter.
Hello, Cincinnati!
Lauren, welcome, sweetheart. We're glad to have you. And that's a serious introduction reel. You got some acting chops, baby girl. Now, you've had quite a run on Glee, so, but now you have a film in this festival?
I do. What kind of job do you do?
Oh, what kind of work do I do? I'm a producer and director. I directed Real Housewives shows, New York, Atlanta.
Why not the Real Housewives of Cincinnati?
Well, we tried, but we couldn't find anybody as crazy as Nene. And we were looking for some women that could flip tables real good, but we'll actually be having a table flipping audition later in the hallway.
Well, I think you guys are great. I would love to watch that.
Well, I agree. And Cincinnati is a very interesting town. So are you ready to introduce the films?
Absolutely.
All right. Our first film is Margarita with a Straw. Now listen, if you want to get messed up, drink a margarita with a star. You'll get It's a coming-of-age story about a young woman moving from India to New York, finding struggle, love, and ultimately self-acceptance.
And the next film is Guest Room, starring me. I have a lovely family and a great life, but it kind of throws a wrench in the whole thing.
Listen, would you like me to assign a writer to you? In fact, I've already talked to somebody
Actually, I
about being
can
a
type.
writer. I'm sorry, what did you say?
That would be wonderful. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the ReelAbilities Film Festival's 2017 chairs, Jenny McCloy and Kim Vincent.
Hello, everyone.
Thank you all for coming.
First of all, I want to say we would audition for Housewives of Cincinnati.
Absolutely.
I don't know about anybody you, but
Absolutely.
okay.
I can think of a few out there.
Well, we're so excited that you have come to join us today. And the next 4 days will be packed, and we could not have done it without the support of so many in this room. I would also like to mention that we will be joined by our fellow co-chair, Dave Parker, for our premiere night event this evening.
We'd like to take a moment to share with you some exciting things in addition to all the movies happening over the next 4 days. But before we do, I would like to recognize the luncheon committee. These women are the ones responsible for this great luncheon and deserve a round of applause. There we go. Terry Hogan, Melissa Milanovich, Kathy Binns, and Leslie Bailey.
We are so pleased to be joining these amazing women for this incredible festival. Putting on an event of this scope is not done easily. With that, I'd like to share a few of the exciting things you can expect over the next 4 days. And there is a lot. First, I'd like to personally invite you to come back this evening for our opening night. Kitty Rosenthal, Katie Lawrence, and Peggy Johns have come together to host a wonderful evening and film benefiting the UC Gardner Center. Tomorrow morning, we have the Interfaith Breakfast, where our faith leaders have come together to explore inclusion in their communities. This event will feature one of the best speakers you will ever hear, Justice Richard Bernstein, a state Supreme Court justice from Michigan who is the nation's youngest justice and just happens to be blind.
Those are all going to be great events. In addition, we have 2 veterans events, a brunch for the early risers and a happy hour for the night owls. These events are paired with beautifully done films and speakers, one of which you will hear from shortly. Cincinnati's favorite son, Teddy Kramer of the Cincinnati Reds, will be here for a book signing, and we have an incredible night planned for you on Saturday with our Cocktails and Zombies event, which benefits one of the festival's very special partners, the Down Syndrome Association of Greater Cincinnati. This event is hosted by Drew Lachey and Q102's Jen Jordan. Our closing night will feature all local stories and is presented by the Cincinnati Enquirer.
And with that, we would like to leave you with two more great films. The Astronaut's Secret, which will premiere this evening, is a documentary showcasing the beautiful story of astronaut Rich Clifford.
And a film that could not be more different than The Astronaut's Secret, Spring Break Zombie Massacre. The first film produced by a person, or in this case, persons with a developmental disability that has gotten wide distribution. This film, after being featured on Conan O'Brien, has developed a cult following, and you are about to see why.
I noticed something was wrong after my second flight. It had nothing to do with flying. I mean, I was in good physical condition. I passed my medical, so what the heck? Something's wrong with my shoulder. I can fix that easily. Turned out it's not an easy fix.
I had no idea what this was. And I think that maybe he didn't know exactly what it was either.
I just thought it was something small, like maybe give me a shot or a pill or something like that.
I never told anyone. Certainly none of my friends could know about it. I thought of my dad as being invincible, and I wanted other people to think of him as that way also.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Keeping it a secret was my way of coping with it, I guess.
My sons, I have a special gift for both of you. The power of bionics.
Because of this, my life is way better.
Yes. Yes. I can feel it.
Police! Little bitches!
Hey, zombie, payback is a bitch.
Hey bros, wanna hit up Cumbies for some victory slushies?
Oh, hell yeah!
Ladies and gentlemen, American hero and actor Brian Anderson.
Hi. Oh man, it's great to be here. I love Cincinnati. I love the rivers and all the bridges over it. It's architecture. Anyway, many of you may not know that one of an important aspect of the ReelAbilities Film Festival are veterans. It provides a powerful platform to kind of tell unique and powerful stories of returning veterans. A lot of us have visible wounds, just like this, but even more of us have invisible wounds, PTSD and scars inside that they're dealing with. Some of our veteran movies show both sides, like Stray Dogs and Birthday. It's going to tell you what it's like to go through something with physical and then something without being able to be visible and people just kind of looking at you like you're normal when you're not. It's also one of my privileges to be able to tell you that LAD and the ReelAbilities Expo, or ReelAbilities Film Festival, have partnered with the National Veterans Wheelchair Games, and that's going to be here in July in Cincinnati. I hope to see you all there. Here's a preview of what's going to happen in the games to come.
I always wanted to be a professional athlete. By the time I was 21, I was a sergeant, and I had 10 people and $3 million worth of equipment that I was in charge of. I was teaching a soldier how to work a weapon. My lower back hit the brush guard and cracked 2 of the vertebrae, herniated 3 of the discs, broke bone into my spinal cord. I remember waking up and having no reason to get out of bed. Just being awake for no reason. In the hospital, the rec therapist came in and said, "Do you play any, wheelchair sports?" I went, "What? I can be an athlete again." It's a critical time to be introduced to something that you can grab a hold of, and for a lot of us, it's sports. When you leave the military, that's your identity. And when that's ripped away, who are you? adaptive athletics. It is such a massive tool to be able to get veterans back into life. Life isn't over. We came home.
Please welcome to the stage Jeff Harris, founder of ReelAbilities National and 2017 ReelAbilities Festival honorary co-chair and co-founder of jasonsconnection.org.
Good afternoon, everyone. We have worked for many years now through our foundation, the Saul Schottenstein Foundation, to try to connect people across our common humanity. We've done that through ReelAbilities, a project that is called Jason's Connection, and other projects. I'd like to just mention quickly about Jason's Connection. It's a national online site that provides stories, information, and resources for people through all different types of humanity. It's been read by over 1 million people, and we've connected tens of thousands of people to services that they're looking for, and more importantly, we've connected people to each other so that they don't have to feel alone. I'm very excited about introducing R.J. Mitty, a young man who has connected us, I've had the privilege of helping to introduce this afternoon. As a young man, R.J. found himself on a powerful platform where he reached millions of people who watched his character every week. Instead of using this fame to garner more for himself, he has used this platform as a megaphone for empowerment, to help stop bullying, for inclusion, and most importantly, in our view, to help us experience our common humanity. Thank you.
People perceive disability as a weakness, as an illness, as something that needs to be cured, and we have to fight against that. How's it feel to be old?
How does it feel to be a smartass?
Good. I'm always working at taking control. It's a fight. It will always be a fight. Why are you still alive? Why don't you just die already? Just die. I think it's really important that we have real stories on television and film that are having real impact. People are hungry for realism. They're hungry to see characters like them.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to R.J. Mitty, joined by Cincinnati's own Nick Clooney.
Hello, everyone. Hello, hello.
What a pleasure to have you here on our stage. Let me say hi to you once again. How you doing?
Pleasure. I'm doing very well. Thank you all.
How many interviews have you done today, for crying out loud? I've heard you twice.
Enough. Let's just say that. Too many to count on one hand.
You bet. You must be interviewed out, but you got one more here, all right?
Hey, that's what we do, right?
I am telling you, this is going to be great fun. I want you to know that the thing that interests me most, I think, is your early life really gave nobody any clue that you would become an award-winning actor and producer. Tell us where you were born and in what circumstances.
So there is a very convoluted, complicated story behind all this, but I was actually adopted. I was adopted out of Mississippi, Jackson, Mississippi. My family that adopted me, which I was adopted at birth. My mom, Dana Mitty, and my father, Scott Mitty, living in Texas, between Texas and Louisiana. And, You know, I actually wasn't diagnosed until about age 3 with my CP. My family took me all over the country to different facilities and different organizations and different people that poked and prodded me, and I kept getting the same, well, I didn't keep getting the same, but my parents kept getting the same result. We know there's something wrong, but we don't know what. That's exactly what you want your doctor to tell you. Thank you so much for that. Send the bill in the mail, I guess. And when I was about 3 years old, my grandmother, I'm a very big family man. My family's very close, the ones that are still alive, still kicking. But she ended up meeting this man who happened to be a Shriner. And he goes, well, does your grandson have CP? And like the doctor said, my grandmother heard, said, well, we know he has something, but we don't know what. And at the time, we were living in Louisiana, Lafayette, Louisiana, and there was a Shriners Hospital about 3-4 hours north in Shreveport, Louisiana. And later that week, my mom drove me up there, and within the first hour of being seen by these doctors, they said, well, they diagnosed me and started treating me. And then put me in occupational therapy, speech therapy, and just it continued to evolve my training and my growth with what I am. And I was wearing casts for 6 months out of the years, and from 3 to 13, I was between casts and braces. And at the time, casts only came in 2 colors. They came in black and they came in white. So being in the South, we don't get a lot of cold weather, so 2 things are going to happen. One, it's going to get extremely dirty and hot, or 2, it's going to just get extremely hot. So I always try to look good. I always you gotta have the flair. So I went with the chic black, and it got extremely hot. And I learned things about myself that without my CP I would have never learned. And I used to take little tricks to cool myself down. I'd freeze coins, and I'd drop these frozen coins into my cast. And I didn't think it all the way through, because putting them in was one thing. Getting them out, a completely different story. And after a couple of weeks of doing this, they got fairly heavy, and I would walk around, and you would kind of hear me jingle a little bit, and I would complain. I'd be like, carry me, and I'm 7 years old, saying, Mom, pick me up, and she's like, you're too big for that now. And one day we went in. This was the first time I started doing this, and they cut open these casts, and all this change poured out, and I had all these coins infused to my leg. It looked like I had leprosy, and did not smell great either. But I grew up a very normal life. This was my normality. This was something that I thought everyone went through these programs and went through occupational therapy and physical therapy. I didn't know it was abnormal until I went to school. And a kid came up and was like, what's wrong with you? Like, why do you have these things? Why do you kind of talk like that? What's with the braces? And I was like, what do you mean what's wrong with me? What's wrong with you? I'm fine. No one's told me I have any problems. I actually went home later that day and asked my mother. I was like, Mom, what's wrong with me? And she was like, what do you mean? I'm like, why do I have braces, and why do I do these things? And she explained to me. And later, actually, I went back to the next day. I went to school, and the kid, I saw the kid. The kid was in one of my classes, and I go, I got the answer. I know what's wrong with me. I got CP. Done. And I kind of explained it to him, and that was the end of the conversation. And it's an interesting thing growing up with something like this. There's a lot of people that have had things happen to them later in life, and they kind of go through a different process that I did. And I'm very astonished that I am who I am today, because I couldn't be what I am without this.
When did you lose the appliances?
I was around 13, turning 14, so right before I started Breaking Bad. When I started acting, I moved to Los Angeles for my little sister. She got an audition for a Lucille Ball campaign. My little sister, bright red hair. She's 13 now. Trouble. Redheads, trouble. Beware of the red, fiery hair. And around that same time, I just kept exercising, a lot of heavily exercising. I've actually gained a little weight that I'm not too proud about, but
oh yeah, you look so awful.
Oh, so awful.
Look at you. But, the thing that we who interview search for even the thinnest connection to the well-known people we interview, and I'm no exception. Perhaps your best-known role, I think it's fair to say that your best-known role is as Walter Flynn White on Breaking Bad. About the time you were born, I was a host on AMC.
Wait, really?
I know how overwhelmed you are.
Yeah, wow,
To hear that
yeah.
You did not. And they did not really begin to succeed until they fired me and hired you.
I don't know about that. I mean, there's a fine line.
In the event that I don't say this at some other point, everybody out there would rightfully take me to task. I want to speak for them when I say that you're quite a remarkable young actor. I've really enjoyed your work very much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I give it to a little bit of luck, and being surrounded by amazing men and women like yourself. It really, I learned from the best, and I continue to learn from the best.
When you first went to California, how old were you? You told me, and I forgot.
I was 12, about 12, 13. So.
Were you, or did you, like everybody else who goes to California, do some extra work out with the films?
I did. You know, I moved out there, and if you live in Los Angeles and you don't go to school, you don't join a gang, and you don't act, that's about it. You're not going to make friends. No one's going to really like you. They're going like, "What are you doing here? You're nothing." I'm like, "Come on now." But yeah, I did a lot of extra work actually. I worked on Hannah Montana, Everybody Hates Chris, Weed, Seventh Heaven. I did a number of different shows and movies, and I recommend anyone that has a kid that wants to get into the industry, I recommend signing them up for extra work. It's an experience that will change their career because you're on a professional set, and you get to work with professional people, and you don't actually have to memorize anything. You just kind of get pointed in the direction and walk. Don't look at the camera and walk. That's the main thing.
Don't look at the camera.
Don't look at
I remember after we had been in California, Nina and I, for a while, and I was working on KNBC, and we had a favorite restaurant. There was a great-looking kid who we thought should be in the movies, and he was parking cars there, you know. And I said to him, "Look, this shows you how the whole atmosphere of California can really affect you." Because I said to him, "This is a rude question, but I'm having an argument with my wife. How old are you?" And he said he was getting my car keys at the moment, and he looked at them a moment, and he says, "I play 20 to 25. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Is that when you started? Is that when you knew that acting was for you?
No, not really. I realized acting was for me after the first episode of Breaking Bad. That was kind of my realization that this was going to be my career. That this is what I loved. You know, this is a rough industry. Anyone that knows it works in any industry, which I met most of you, and you're in an amazing industry in your own right, and it's hard work, and especially when you're dealing with the people that we have to deal with on a daily basis. You got a lot of cradling to do. Like, oh, it's okay, But I realized after the first episode, when I first walked on set and we had all the cameras there, and you know, Breaking Bad, we shot on film. We were one of the last TV shows to actually shoot on 35, and it's an experience. And we had a crew of 500. We're getting there. It's camera. I'm walking on set. Never spoke on camera before, and it was so warm and welcoming. And I fell in love with the crew dynamic of being part of this new family and this family that evolves all kind of in the same direction, all having different jobs, but all evolving with each other as this process goes. And it really changed my perspective, because if I didn't get Breaking Bad, I would have probably strived for probably another 10 years. And For me, I love working. As much as I'm an actor, I'm a businessman. I love to work. I love to work for companies. I love to create an entity, and you don't always get that in my job. But when you have something like Breaking Bad, it gave me the opportunity to create and to reach people on such a level that I could never imagine.
And so early, apropos of what you were just saying there, it struck me in reading your story that the fact is, because of the circumstances in which you found yourselves and your family found yourself, and you're so much in touch with your family and you love them so much and that they mean so much to you, you were the breadwinner at 13.
Yeah, well, so right after my little sister was born, I was around 12. My mother was actually in a severe car accident, and she couldn't really lift my sister, so I kind of had to take that responsibility. And you know, a lot of people would say, "Oh, your kid has a disability. Why give him that much responsibility?" But that was really never a factor in my family, and I always grew up working. So when that happened, I just realized. I wanted to stay in my home. After the accident, we were like, well, we're going to move back to Grandma and Grandpa's, and it's okay because we can't. And I was like, I am not moving back to my grandparents' house. We just got this place. We literally, like, a couple of months before, just got this townhouse in Lafayette, Louisiana, and it was like, it was amazing, and then the baby, and it was just all these things that were happening, and it was so exciting, and then this accident, and I was like, I ain't going back. It ain't no, and I made that stand, and I made that decision that I would do what I needed to do to continue the life that we created.
I've got to tell you, our time's up. It's been up for 5 minutes, you know, but I would talk to you the rest of the day. I really would. You're quite a remarkable young man, and I can't tell you what you talking to us means to all of us here, and what you are bringing to our passion. It
is my pleasure. I'm very honored that y'all have me up here and are allowing me this opportunity to share a story. And you know, you are storytellers. Everyone in this room, you create life. You create this entity, and you make an impact. You have such a big impact. This community, these people that you have gathered with, you're going to change the future of film with this, with the people that you have in this. Don't forget, you really touch people on such a level. These films don't just have a great story, and yes, they're about disability, but they're real and they're truth, and that's what we're hungry for. I feel as society, that's what we need, and I applaud you, and I thank you all so much for this.
Help me thank this young man.
Please welcome to the stage, ReelAbilities Film Festival Honorary Co-Chair, Commissioner Todd Portune, and presenting sponsor, Candlelight CEO, Calvin Johnston.
Well, good afternoon again to everyone, and thank you, Nick Clooney, and thank you, RJ, for that great interview that took place. Of course, Nick Clooney is one of the more endearing individuals in our community, his family, well known to all. And RJ, I never got a chance to thank him until today, when I'm thanking him because about the time that I was first learning how to use these crutches, getting out of a wheelchair, RJ was on TV with Breaking Bad, where he was using the same kind of crutches. And it helped me in that process, both in my interaction with other people, as well as just figuring out sometimes that you can truly go anywhere and still use these aids to get everywhere that you need to go. So that's really what this film festival is all about, and we're so very grateful to everyone, all of you, for being here, and to everyone who's presented today to give this great teaser to what the ReelAbilities Film Festival is going to be all about. Of course, the festival is close to my heart because of my own issues that I've been dealing with and my own personal experience in living with a disability. But I also want to make sure that we have a community that is welcoming to everyone, because I'm very interested to make sure that there's equal opportunity as well for my daughter Emma, who is a 16-year-old Down syndrome freshman at Oak Hills High School. I think she's on the screen up there. And Emma has played basketball. She's been on the cheerleading squad. She's in the band. Nothing holds Emma back. And I think this festival, again, is all about making sure that everyone knows that nothing holds anyone back, regardless of their different abilities. We may have different abilities, but we certainly are not handicapped. Calvin.
You know, it's the commissioner's personal story and very similar ones within the Candlelight family that make us such proud to be the corporate sponsor for the ReelAbilities Film Festival. It's why we have partnered with LAD so that we can help shine a light on these amazing people and their stories and the films that you're going to experience over the next couple of days.
Calvin, thank you very much for that, and thank you for your personal leadership, the leadership of Candlelight, and really to all of our sponsors here. Thank you so very much for supporting the efforts locally, supporting LAD, supporting the ReelAbilities Film Festival that's truly making a difference, as all of you are making a difference in our city. I'm going to go off script just for a second. In Hamilton County, our Board of Commissioners as well, my partners at the board, Denise Driehaus and Chris Monzel, we are taking 3 new steps before the end of this month. We are adopting new policy in the county with respect to construction that the county's involved in to make sure that every space that we are connected to is welcoming, not just the bare bones minimum of the ADA requirements, but going beyond that to make sure that all of our facilities are welcoming to everyone. Second, we're adopting new policy. Susan Brown Knight talked about efforts with the Chamber of Commerce and Employment. We are adopting a new policy on inclusion within the workplace in Hamilton County. And third, we are opening a new Office of Inclusion at Hamilton County to oversee and manage and ensure that all things are done to make certain that Cincinnati and Hamilton County is truly the most welcoming place in America for all people. And I want to close. Finally, I'm just going to say I couldn't be more thrilled that we are going to host the National Veterans Wheelchair Games here in Cincinnati, Hamilton County this July. And I hope, just as we're going to have standing room, overwhelming attendance at all of the venues for this ReelAbilities Film Festival, that we will have the same as we welcome some of the greatest athletes in America who will be participating here in Cincinnati this July, again with the National Veterans Wheelchair Games. So with that, Calvin, why don't you help send us off?
My pleasure, Todd. And to cap off a memorable luncheon, it's my pleasure to introduce John Lawson, actor, singer, and fellow Cincinnatian who's going to bring us home. We thank you all for joining us and enjoy.
This is the day when I send all my doubts and demons on their way. Every endeavor I have made ever is coming here today, is here and now today. This is the moment. This is the time when the momentum and the moment are in rhyme. Give me this moment, this precious chance. I'll gather up my past and make some sense at last. This is the moment. is the day. See it sparkle and shine when all I live for becomes mine. For all these years I faced the world alone, and now the time has come to prove to them I've made it on my own. This is the moment, my final test. Destiny beckoned, I never reckoned second best. I won't look down, I must not fall. This is the moment, the special moment of them all. This is the moment, damn all the odds. This day or never, I sit forever with the gods. When I look back, I will always recall, moment for moment, this was the moment, the greatest moment of them
This portion of the evening will be a panel where we get to explore the issues touched on in that inspiring film. Joining us on the panel tonight, we have Zach Jankovic, who is joining us via Skype. Zach, can you hear us? Hi, Zach. Zach produced, directed, and edited tonight's film. He's the founder of Cut to Create Media Company, which he founded with the goal of creating meaningful and exciting media. In addition to The Astronaut's Secret, he produced, directed, and edited the award-winning short documentary Tourette Syndrome Up Close. The star of our film, Rich Clifford, was diagnosed by Zach's father, neurologist Joseph Jankovic, MD, in 1994. Boone Cutler is an author, columnist, music video director, and warfighter rights leader. He holds the distinguished honor of being the first nationally recognized radio talk show personality who's also a combat veteran from the current war. In 2012, Boone was diagnosed with Parkinson's secondary to a blast injury in Iraq. A significant part of his work is focused on bringing attention to the alarming rates of warfighters' suicide and homelessness. Dr. Alberto Espe, whom you met earlier, medical director for the Gardner Center, and Maureen Gartner, nurse practitioner at the UC Gardner Center. Welcome, all of you. Thank you all for joining us this evening. We'd like to start by asking everyone on the panel the same question, and Zach, I'll let you answer first. What do you hope people take away from your film?
Obviously inspiration. I mean, Rich, being an astronaut is just an inspirational character just because he had the courage to do that, go to space. But the fact that he did it in the face of such adversity, I think is just really inspirational. I hope people take that away from the film.
Margaret, what do you hope people take from the film? Maureen.
Sorry.
Sorry about that. Maureen.
I'm sorry. My inspiration from the film is that he didn't give up. Every day we want our patients, our people, to live life fully, to embrace the disease as best they can, and to move forward with it, because it takes a lot more energy to fight it than it does to live with it and do the right things that they need to do.
Dr. Espe?
Fully agree with Maureen. think that not getting to become defined by the disease is critical. And that's probably, in my mind, the most important message.
And Boone, as someone who has Parkinson's, you have a different perspective, I'm guessing.
Yeah, my Parkinson's I volunteered to get when I signed up for the Army, so I'm.
Thank you for your service.
I didn't realize that was going to happen, but I'm okay with it. My biggest thing, Parkinson's is just a name. You know, when they told me that, I went about 5 years with undiagnosed Parkinson's, and so when I was told I had Parkinson's, it was a relief to me, because then I knew what it was and I knew what I could do. So if I take away from this the same thing I tell other people, and that is, if you get Parkinson's, you just need to get busy. You know, don't be sitting back in the poor me and have the whole pity party thing, because that's not going to help you. You got to get busy. It takes work to cope with it.
Tell us about your work related to that in the warfighter community.
Well, right now, the biggest thing that I'm putting out in the warfighter community is a lot of us get diagnosed. I was injured in 2005 during a mortar attack on my base in Iraq. And at the time, I thought I'd kind of walked away from it pretty unscathed. Time went on, and that wasn't necessarily the case. That's the cause of my Parkinson's, this post-blast related Parkinson's, and didn't know anything about it. And what I'm trying to tell people now is those guys out there, and this is the message I want to get, and if you forget everything else, don't forget this, the words resulting in what? Because they tell us we have traumatic brain injury. You have traumatic brain injury, but then they don't tell us anything else. And we need to ask the doctors, and the doctors need to let us know, okay, resulting in what? Because traumatic brain injury can result in different things. If you had a problem with your pancreas and all of a sudden it wasn't putting out the right amount of what's that stuff called? Insulin, right. I almost said estrogen, and I was like, that's not right. If it's not putting out the right amount of insulin, your doctor's not going to stop right there and go, hey, you have a problem with your insulin, you know, from your pancreas. They're going to say, and it will result in diabetes, and this is what you should do for that. So we need to start asking our doctors, especially in the warfighter community, because there is a lot of Parkinson's, and guys are undiagnosed. So when they have TBI, they need to ask their doctor, resulting in what, and be ready for that.
Zach, question for you. Tell us about the process of making this film and working with Rich.
Yeah, so the process started back in 2011. I had decided that I was going to leave Colorado, where I went to school, and come back to Houston, and I needed something. I needed a story to tell. And my dad, being the doctor that diagnosed Rich, I had always seen that picture of Rich on his wall, the signed picture, and we got to talking, and my dad was in the process of trying to get Rich to go public about his diagnosis and what he had done. And I said, this is a great subject for a documentary. So I took, I think, I'm 25 at that point, and so I call Rich and take him and Nancy out to dinner, and I say, do you guys want to make a documentary about your story? And they thought I was kidding, but after some time, they softened up to the idea, and so we just kicked it off. I mean, we scheduled on July 5th. So I back March 2011. By July 5th, we had lined up about 15 interviews in one day at NASA with Rich, Nancy, with several astronauts that had missions with Rich, and we just started capturing everything. And then during that process as well, we worked on getting us out to the final shuttle launch on July 11th, 2011. So all of this just happened very quickly. We launched a Kickstarter campaign, raised some money there, got some funds through various Parkinson's groups, 23andMe, really got behind the idea and the project, and dove into it, and Rich was just fantastic to work with. He, anytime I called him and said, this would be a great time to capture this, he made himself available. At the time we started, he was working at Boeing, but the shuttle program was ending, so I knew that retirement was probably on the horizon for Rich. So the day that he said he was going to pack up his stuff and take it out of Boeing, I asked if I could tag along, and it turned into a really beautiful moment to see him just, perusing some of the, the old artifacts at Boeing related to the shuttle program. So it just organically kept developing, and after about a year of filming, it took about 6 months to a year to do the editing and pick up shoots. We had to film a lot of reenactments because a lot of the story took place behind closed doors. But after we compiled it all, we put out the film, and the reception has been fantastic. And I'm glad that, you know, this long after starting the project, 6 years after starting the project, still make an impact, and people are still wanting to see it. So thank you for taking the time to show it.
Does your father like the film?
He's biased. Yeah.
Well, we'd like to turn the questioning over to the audience. If you have a question, please put your hand up. We have some folks out there with microphones who will allow you to ask questions of Maureen and Dr. Espay, Boone, and Zach. I see one there toward the back.
Hi, my question is, initially during the film, he was saying that nobody knew exactly what caused Parkinson's. And my question now becomes that if some of our veterans, because of what has happened, are getting Parkinson's, how come we still don't know what's causing it?
You want me to field that one? In my community right now, there's not enough exposure on it, and the question is it exposure to uranium, because there's a lot of funky stuff over there. When I tried to come back from Iraq on leave, I had a small can that was full of dirt, because my buddy traded me a knife for some dirt, and I figured it was a pretty good trade, right? And so I'm gonna bring him dirt from Iraq, and they're going through all of my stuff, and they said, "What's this?" And I said, "It's dirt," and they said, "Dump it out." And I went, "It's just dirt." And they're like, "No, you can't bring dirt back to America from Iraq. There's too much stuff in that." And I'm thinking, well, then why are we here, you know? And so that was an issue. And so they don't really know. What I have, my form of Parkinson's, and the other guys that I see, I think at some point in time it will be classified a little bit differently. The medicine for Parkinson's works for it, and that's why my doctor was like, based upon all your stuff and your physical exams and everything else, let's try the medicine for Parkinson's, see if it works. Absolutely worked, made everything better. And why are they not getting treated for it? Well, that question goes for everything else. Why are we not being treated for?
Dr. Espay, Maureen, would you like to answer that question? Why don't we know what causes Parkinson's?
The simpler explanation is that there isn't a single Parkinson's disease, that in fact what we know as Parkinson's is a syndrome rather than a disease. And the way one could begin to suspect that is because people can look very different from one another. And you probably haven't found someone that looks like you.
People tell me all the time, "Wow, you don't look like you have Parkinson's." And I'm like, "Hey, thanks, you know." But that compliment really goes to my wife. She's my caregiver, and she takes very good care of me, because Boone Cutler is a team effort, I assure you of that. And she does a good job taking care of me. But with the other cognitive issues from traumatic brain injury, I need someone to help me with a system, because managing Parkinson's is a system. You have to develop a system. And those out there with Parkinson's, you know what I'm talking about. It's rest, it's exercise, it's nutrition, it's your medication. For me, I plan my whole life around how long I'm gonna be on a microphone. And the rest before, the rest after, you know, the things I have to do, because this is where I'm gonna make my money, per se, which means take care of my community. And that's my job, is to take care of my community.
So we have just lumped many people that are very different from one another into a single condition, single diagnosis, and therefore trying to find a cause for what is in fact many diseases has proven elusive, and it will continue to be elusive until we begin the process of trying to distinguish different kinds of Parkinson's and which of those are going to be due to what causes. But for now, we don't have a cause, because there are no causes that can explain all those who have the current diagnosis of Parkinson's disease. Hopefully in the future that'll change, and we're working toward that end.
Is it hereditary?
There is a very small percentage of patients who have familial Parkinson's. We think most Parkinson's is genetic, although not necessarily inheritable, which means there are genetic components that may lead to Parkinson's, but only in a very small subset of people with Parkinson's there is a gene that can in fact be passed on from one generation to the next, leading to what we currently call Parkinson's disease.
But aren't there many genes
There,
that have been identified?
there are many genes, and probably they, again, represent different diseases. We currently lump them together as if they were all part of one disease. We have found that different families have different genes, and those are probably different molecular types of Parkinson's. As you can imagine, if the cause is different for each of these genes, the treatment in the future should be equally different.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Just to tag in on that, and the question back here, the Veterans Administration right now has considered Parkinson's a presumptive illness, which means if you contract Parkinson's and you've been deployed overseas as a combat veteran, been in an explosion, they assume, you don't have to prove your Parkinson's was related to that blast or that injury. They assume that's what it was. And a lot of people don't know that, and that word really needs to get out there. There's just too many connections between combat injuries and Parkinson's.
They've also approved it in relation to what went on in Vietnam, the Agent Orange.
Agent Orange.
They've approved it for Agent Orange as well.
Thank you.
Another question from the audience?
Zach, how'd you like to fly in a space shuttle? How do you?
Are you asking how Zach liked the space shuttle?
Yes.
Zach, you didn't actually fly in it, right? You just researched it?
Unfortunately, they didn't have any room in there. Seeing a shuttle launch was probably the best moment of making this film. It was pretty spectacular to see the shuttle launch, and then maybe a minute or 30 seconds later, feel the sound hit you. Very difficult to film Rich, film the shuttle launch, but also want to look at the shuttle launch because it's the last one you'll ever see. So it was a very tricky filming scenario for me. I had two cameras on me too, one held on a monopod and one on my shoulder. So I was kind of managing two cameras at once and at the same time looking up at the shuttle. But it was really just magnificent, and everybody was crying, and it was definitely a scene that I'll never forget.
Wow. Yes, over here.
My question's for Boone. Okay, so it's like 2, maybe 3, and you can answer whatever you want. But it's like, okay, so you serve your country, you go overseas, and you witness all this stuff. Then you come home and get diagnosed with Parkinson's. 1, how is it possible for you to stay positive as you do? And 2, what's the biggest challenge that you face living with Parkinson's today?
The way I stay positive, a big way, is that I know my community is watching me. And if I punk out, somebody else is going to punk out. So I'm not punking out. That's just the bottom line. And the biggest challenge I deal with, again, it's Parkinson's, or just in general, if I could just tell people, having traumatic brain injury is like somebody popped off your head, took out your brain, put in another brain, and you don't have the instruction manual for it. You got to figure it out. I mean, I had a total personality change, or a lot of things that happened. And so the biggest challenge, along with TBI and Parkinson's, is getting to know yourself and your own capabilities so you can maximize that to build that system to deal with it. But you can't do that if you sit in your bed and start crying about it. So you got to get off your ass. You got to move.
Go ahead.
Okay, Sheila, this is going to be our last question that we have time for tonight.
Rich specified that, or he emphasized having early detection. What is it that we can be looking for, and what's the first step after becoming curious or noticing any symptoms?
Dr. Maureen.
Dr. Maureen.
Doctor and/or Maureen.
Well,
we're a pair.
we are a team.
I can tell that you guys are.
This is so cool. When I got here, they said, you're going to be on a panel with the doctor and Maureen. And I said, okay, that's great. And they said, the doctor is so intelligent, they actually have to have a person that can explain what he says to the common people. So that's where you saw this mix-up right here.
Thank you. Very good.
But what are some of those signs that she asked about and the initial parts of treatment?
Tying that with the question of the cause, I think it's important to recognize that there are many ways in which Parkinson's can present itself. And one way is a tremor. And in fact, in the video, the film you saw, that Rich had a tremor on one hand. It's very common. It happens in one limb, often a hand, it could be a foot, and then it can progress on to develop other features. But tremor, very common. If tremor is not happening, then it's usually difficulties with walking, slowed, shuffled gait. And sometimes it could be other things. Interestingly, it doesn't have to be a motor manifestation. It can be what we refer to as a non-motor manifestation. So it could be, for instance, changes in heart rate and blood pressure that may be expressed as fatigue, that may be expressed as periods of near fainting or, in fact, passing out episodes. So it can be very diverse. And just as when you see full-blown Parkinson's looking very distinct and very different to the next person's Parkinson's disease, the presentation of Parkinson's can be just as varied, suggesting that there are many kinds of Parkinson's disease, each of which may in fact progress through a very unique pathway. And so it's unfortunate, because if we try to make it all neat into one single box that we can all identify with, but in fact is quite diverse, and that's why then a neurologist is needed to identify whether someone may be presenting with a feature that is not quote-unquote classical, but that might be within what is thought to be within the broad spectrum of manifestations of Parkinson's.
More men
Yeah,
than females?
so it's interesting that there is a gender predominance toward males compared to females. We don't know why that is.
Because we punch each other in the head as kids.
And play football and, yeah.
So traumatic brain injury could be one element to this. Interestingly, the women who undergo ovarian removal or early menopause by natural, or obviously unnatural or surgical methods, have the same risk of developing Parkinson's than males, if that occurs under the age of 25 years, suggesting that there probably is also a hormonal influence on the development of Parkinson's disease.
And then quickly, can you talk about the first stages of treatment that she asked about? You know, what is the initial treatment like?
It varies. There are two major categories that doctors use to try to understand what might the best initial approach be to Parkinson's treatment. First is age, and the second one is disability. Younger individuals with little disability, there are two categories of drugs that we use, MAO-B inhibitors, selegiline, rasagiline, and dopamine agonists, pramipexole, ropinirole, rotigotine. And then the other end of the spectrum is older age and high disability in those individuals who are straight to levodopa. Levodopa is to Parkinson's what insulin is to diabetes. It's an actual replacement strategy for a neurotransmitter, levodopa, and dopamine from which it comes, that isn't being manufactured at the rate in which it should be.
And the simpler version is it's gas in the gas tank.
Brilliant, brilliant right there, brilliant.
Gas in the gas tank. Thank you. That's what it is.
Well, we would like to thank everyone, Boone, Zach, Dr. Espay, Maureen, thank you so much for joining us. We hope all of you enjoyed this evening. Please know that 90% of the proceeds from ticket sales tonight go to support the important work being done by the UC Gardner Center. Thank you to LAD for organizing this evening and this film festival. Thank you so much to UC Health, and a final thanks to our co-chairs this evening, Peggy and Gary Johns. Come on out. Peggy and Gary Johns, Kitty and Dick Rosenthal, Katie and Bobby Lawrence. Thank you so much. And have a wonderful rest of your evening. I hope you get to spend some more time with ReelAbilities this weekend. Be safe. I am sorry I botched your name.
So that's us. Thank you. This festival is made possible, and especially this interfaith event, is made possible by so many people and so many different organizations. First, I would like to recognize the many members of our committee. You'll be able to hear from many of them this morning, and so you will get to know them as well. You'll see how amazing they are. But I would like our committee members who are visible to stand up, if you would, if you've served on this committee, if you've made this possible. Thank you to all of them. They've worked so hard. I would also like to thank interfaithcincy.org. That is the organization made possible and founded out of the Brueggemann Center for Dialogue at Xavier University. And interfaithcincy.org is our sponsoring presenter for this event. And because they have contributed so generously, we are able to provide this lunch, or this breakfast actually, at a very reasonable price. So we're grateful to them. Thank you to interfaithcincy.org. And also thank you to our other sponsors, the Archdiocese of Cincinnati, the Islamic Center of Greater Cincinnati, Christ Church Cathedral, the Reverend Noel Julness Daner, the Women's Interfaith Network of Cincinnati, MARC, AJC, the American Jewish Committee, the Amos Project. What I've really learned is that it takes a community to create one. It truly does. To lead us in prayer before we eat, I would like to invite to join me on the stage the Most Reverend Joseph R. Binzer of the Catholic Archdiocese, Bishop Binzer, Acharya Kailash Ji of the Hindu Temple of Greater Cincinnati, Rabbi Margaret Meyer, President Emeritus of MARC, Reverend Ennis Tate, pastor of the Church of Living God, Imam Hussam Musa from the Islamic Center of Greater Cincinnati, and the Reverend Noel Julness Daner from Christ Church Cathedral.
Let us pray. Good and gracious God, you teach us that your power is greater than any human limitation or weakness. Through surrender to your holy will, may we bear witness to the truth that the source of our human dignity is not the condition of the body, but our likeness to you, our Creator. All of us, because of your great love for us, are created in your image and likeness, and all of us are your people. And we look forward to the future with optimism and with faith in you as we pursue our call to provide justice and fullness of life for all people with disabilities. May we enjoy a totally welcoming community with you at our center. And we ask you to bless our time today and to bless all of us and all of our loved ones always, and bless the food we're about to share. We ask this in your name. Amen.
ॐ द्यौ शान्तिः अन्तरिक्षगं शान्तिः पृथिवी शान्तिरापश्शान्तिरोषधयः शान्तिः वनस्पतयः शान्तिर्विश्वे देवा शान्तिर्ब्रह्म शान्तिः सर्वगं शान्तिः सामा शान्तिरेधि ॐ शान्तिः 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 ॐ May peace radiate there in the whole sky as well as in the vast eternal space everywhere. May peace reign all over this earth, in water and in all herbs, trees, and creepers. May peace flow over the whole universe. May peace be in the Supreme Being, Brahman, and may there always exist in all peace and peace alone. O Lord, lead us from the unreal to real, lead us from darkness to light, and lead us from death to immortality. May the Lord protect us both together. He nourishes us both together. May we work conjointly with the great energy. May our study be vigorous and effective. maybe not mutually dispute, or maybe not hate any. Oh, let there be a peace in me, let there be peace in my environment, and let there be peace in the force that act on me. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Thank you.
Our God, God of our ancestors, God of us all, we have gathered this morning from many backgrounds and faiths to affirm our belief in the scriptural teaching that we are all created, B'Tselem Elohim, in the image of the divine. It is our challenge to remember at all times never to place a stumbling block before the blind, to treat one another as equals, as godlike, as one created in God's image. And just as we cannot know what God may look like or what you may be like, so we are unable to know what we should look, sound, or be like. And so we pray to you, the one God, creator of us all, that we may be mindful of all those around us, that we may celebrate the abilities of all human beings, whether they be different abilities from ours or similar to ours, that we may reach out and welcome everyone as equal members of the one race, the human race. May we leave here this morning more aware of one another, more aware of our abilities and what we each can contribute in our own ways, and more committed to bettering our world for all of us. Amen.
Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from all evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen.
In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, our Lord, we praise you for your unlimited and continuous blessings. O God, we thank you for your countless blessings upon us here today and every day. O God, we ask you to bless our meal, to bless our demeanor, to bless our behavior. O God, help us treat everyone with dignity, respect, love, care, and kindness. O God, help us walk the earth with humility and be of service to all of those who come in contact with us. O God, help all of those who are vulnerable, and we all are, and help us be means of help, kindness, and love and care for all of those around us. And bless our hearts, guide us, protect us, watch over us, and make us serve one another. For your sake and your sake alone, amen.
Lord of all, we thank you for the gift of creation and its incredible variety. Continue to open our arms and deepen our hearts so that we are filled with love, and each day we know you and welcome you in each person we meet. Amen.
Good morning, everybody. I think breakfast service is about to get going. So while that's happening, I'm going to say a few words to get us started. This morning, my name is Susan Brown Knight. I'm the Executive Director of Living Arrangements for the Developmentally Disabled, LAD, and it is such a privilege to be here. It's very humbling to follow those prayers that just took place. So I wanted to very quickly, as breakfast is served, share a little bit about the inspiration behind this particular event. First, we have an incredible collection of agencies here, and I encourage all of you to get to know the people at your table. Our peers, who are all present in the back here and at your tables, do incredible work. Very, very committed, and are amazing resources for all of the faith-based communities that are present here today, and I can't emphasize that enough. One of the impetus behind this particular event is the wide variety of experiences that many of the people that LAD supports experience within their faith-based communities. And it is an interesting thing because I think it's a reflection upon the diversity of approaches that are out there. But it often is very polarized. So we have faith communities that literally are life-changing. We support hundreds of people every single day, literally life-changing for them. The connections are authentic. The families feel supported. We have one particular person who every Sunday morning is picked up not by his family, but by a fellow church member and taken to church every Sunday, and that is followed by brunch. So he gets to experience his faith and his community regardless of whether his parents are in town, whether they are feeling well. And frankly, that's a uniting factor in the daily experience of that particular community. We have also experienced the other spectrum. Families often say, very respectfully, oh, well, my son or daughter or my sibling can't sit still long enough, so we don't go practice our faith. We're not essentially welcome where we practice our faith because my son or daughter or sibling walks through the world differently. And it is very interesting how extreme those experiences are, from somebody who is awash in God's love to somebody who feels not worthy of being present in the house of worship. And so I think it's an interesting dialogue to begin here today to really talk about what it looks like to be inclusive for people who move through the world differently. And it's a powerful dialogue to have. I want to leave you by sharing that 1 in 54 boys is now born on the autism spectrum. About 1 in 80 kids is born on the autism spectrum. People with disabilities are living longer, are looking for support beyond their parents. And this is very real. It is real in your communities. It is real in our neighborhoods. And so it is a matter of when we decide to become inclusive, not if. There are so many people experiencing the world differently and are moving through the world differently that it's up to us to figure out how to support those families, those adults and children who are feeling alone or isolated in their experience when in reality we know they are not. And that this is the beginning of that process. So I'm so grateful to be able to share breakfast with you all today. LAD and all of the agencies here are working very hard and want to be supportive and provide resources to all of you as you welcome people with disabilities or continue to welcome people with disabilities within your faith communities. So thank you so much. Enjoy your breakfast, and we have a great speaker before you in Justice Richard Bernstein. Thank you.
chewing on a piece of grass, walking down the road. Tell me, how long you gonna stay here, Joe? Some people say this town don't look good in snow. You don't care, I know. Ventura Highway in the sunshine, where the days are longer, the nights are stronger than moonshine.
All right, they said they're working now. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, there's not working. Just start talking. Can you hear me okay? How about if I could have your attention?
If we could have your attention, please.
Good morning. My name is Shabana Shakir Ahmed, and I'm with the Islamic Center of Greater Cincinnati. I just want to clarify for you while you're eating your breakfast, and I hope you are enjoying your breakfast, that is turkey bacon at the table. Just wanted to clarify that. I know it looks like the real thing, right? So,
No pig was harmed.
no pig was harmed today. Go ahead, Noel.
Over this past year, we have gathered community leaders interested in guiding Cincinnati toward becoming a more truly welcoming city, one in which we purposely seek connection beyond differences.
So, as a Muslim and as a mother of a child with autism, I'm deeply aware of the fact that too often people with disabilities are not included in our faith communities. So while we gather in our mosques, in our synagogues, in our churches, or meditation groups, while we provide wonderful social services to these groups, too often the 20% of fellow Americans with disabilities are not amongst us. And more importantly, they are not being represented.
Today, we encourage each faith community to reflect and to become even more inclusive. ReelAbilities can jumpstart your community's conversation by providing a film selected by you from among the films you see at this festival, as well as other films that are in the catalog, to deepen your conversation about inclusion of people with disabilities. The films may be faith-related or not. It's up to you. We'll show you an example from ReelAbilities this year.
So let's take a few minutes to watch Marie's story. Marie is about a child with disabilities who is being locked out, who is being excluded, and the power of a people in a faith community who care. This film is based on a true story.
Aujourd'hui, j'ai rencontré une âme toute petite, toute fragile. Comment communiquer avec cette petite enfermée dans la nuit et le silence?
Mais vous n'avez aucune expérience avec les sourdes? En plus, cette pauvre était aveugle.
Laissez-moi au moins essayer. Comment est-ce de vivre dans l'obscurité la plus totale et le silence absolu? Comment parvenir à lui parler, à l'écouter? Il faut que vous veniez voir ça de vos propres yeux, ma mère.
Good morning. My name is Bill Kidd, and I am the co-chair of the Interfaith Breakfast. And I look at Noel over here, and just about a little less than a year ago, we were sitting in a coffee shop in Mount Lookout, and we were starting to work on this, and this is what we envisioned, so thank you for all coming. So, as someone, I'm in direct support with LAD, and I also have members of my family that experience disability. And having that background, I know that assumptions about what someone can or cannot do often get very much in the way of their full potential. So what is important is that we ask those people and let them decide. As members of the faith community, we are challenged to let people decide their limitations on their own, to ask them, then to make accommodations, to remove barriers, to do what we can, that people are able to access communities that we know are so important. Please let me leave you with this one thing. Honor the divine within yourselves and everyone you encounter, no matter their ability. Now, many of the films that you will see here at ReelAbilities this weekend and that we can make available to your faith community are about living beyond perceived barriers. Here's a beautiful French film from the director Nils, and I'm not very good at French, Tavernier, and here's the film. Thank you.
Il était tellement content d'avoir un garçon. Puis quand il a vu les autres bébés marcher et pas le sien, il a commencé à se renfermer. Il a arrêté la compétition. En fait, ça fait des années qu'il s'éloigne de lui.
Il a besoin d'un père, tu comprends ça? Moi, je m'en occupe tous les jours. Depuis 17 ans, matin, midi et soir. T'es où, toi?
3 km 8 de natation, 180 km de vélo et 42 km à pied. Ça, c'est une course de dingue, hein?
Je vais faire l'Ironman avec toi.
C'est quoi cette idée? Ça va pas, non?
Je suis sûr qu'on peut y arriver!
Oublie ça, c'est non. J'en suis pas capable. Tu t'enlèves ça de la tête. On trouvera bien autre chose à faire.
Non, je veux rien faire d'eux.
T'abandonnes pas, toi. Concentré en permanence. Pas une seconde d'inattention, sinon c'est le gadin.
Va falloir arrêter cette course. C'est trop dangereux.
C'est pas grave si on finit pas.
Si, c'est grave. Moi, je vais aller au bout avec toi.
Hello and good morning to everybody. My name's Judy Coolman, and I am a fellow at the Brueggemann Center for Dialogue at Xavier University. I'm also what was a small little project became interfaithcincy.org, and I manage the website. It is my pleasure to introduce to you our keynote speaker, Justice Richard Bernstein. He is someone who knows about exceeding limitations. After finishing law school at the top of his class, he applied for 65 jobs, but was not hired, and that was because of his disability. He's blind. Nonetheless, Justice Bernstein made history when he was sworn into office as the nation's first Supreme Court Justice for the state of Michigan. Richard says that it's his challenges he faces as someone who was born blind that fuel his passion for fairness. He earned his Juris Doctor from Northwestern University School of Law before joining the Sam Bernstein Law Firm in Farmington Hills, Michigan, where he's won several landmark cases. In 2004, on behalf of Detroit residents with disabilities, he won an action to fix wheelchair lifts on buses as required by federal law. For the Paralyzed Veterans of America in 2007, he fought and won an action against the University of Michigan for failing to include adequate accommodations for spectators with disabilities in stadium renovations. He also won a suit filed against Northwest Airlines and Wayne County Airport Authority on behalf of 5 passengers with disabilities to ensure that the Airport Authority would make significant modifications to comply with the Americans with Disabilities Act. Bernstein is an endurance athlete who's finished 18 marathons. And at 37, he completed the half Ironman triathlon in Eilat, Israel. The half Ironman consists of a 1.9-kilometer swim in the Red Sea, a 90-kilometer cycle, and 21.1-kilometer run. Bernstein has completed it as the competition's first blind competitor with the assistance of a pilot in the Israeli Air Force as part of the Israeli Defense Forces. So without further ado, please welcome our keynote speaker, Justice Richard Bernstein.
It was about a week ago, and I had the opportunity to address the United Nations Project Zero conference in Vienna, Austria. 120 countries present, 10 different languages spoken. It was quite interesting. The idea of a person who was blind serving on their state's highest court was a foreign concept. Many countries across the world actually outlaw the idea of a person who is blind being able to serve as a judge. How on earth can you judge if you can't see facial expressions? How on earth can you judge if you can't visit a crime scene? How on earth can you judge if you're not able to understand and appreciate the texts that lie before you? As we spoke to the global press, the thing that struck me the most as I began answering these questions and addressing these issues was one reporter put it best: that is so distinctly American that a blind person could serve on their state's highest court. With all the challenges and hardships and difficulties that we're facing, it is always important to remember who we are, what we stand for, and the image that we're able to project onto the world, one of hope, optimism, and no limitations. In Michigan, I'm blessed to have been elected by the people of the great state of Michigan to serve them in this capacity. But I remember having the chance to have a discussion with some other people. And we embraced on this discussion about what are the qualities that go into being a good jurist. What are the qualities that make somebody a good judge? And as the conversation continued, people would say things like, well, it's obvious. If you want to be a good judge, it's all about the elite nature of the school that you attended, your academic records. It's all about your ability to research and to write. And I remember saying, well, yes, those are all critical concepts and are all important things. I think you have missed the most important one. And when asked what that was, I responded by saying life experience. It is our life experiences that define each and every one of us. It is our life experiences that make us who we are. It is our life experiences that allow for us to understand and appreciate the stories that we all share, the stories that we all tell, and the stories that God gives to every one of them. I always share this experience. For as we go through life, there are certain conversations that define who we are and the road that we're going to take. A wonderful young mother called me one day. It's about 15 years ago, and she reached out to me because she knew that disability rights was my life's work, and she said, Richard, I'm calling you because I need you to help me to understand. Why is it that I can be such a good person? I can be a pious person. I can be a righteous person. I follow all the rules. I do everything that is asked. but help me to understand why it is, of all the people in the world, God would choose me to have a child with special needs. Help me to learn what kind of a life is my newborn going to have. Do you think my newborn baby is ever going to make any friends? Do you think he's ever going to go to school? Do you think he's ever going to get married and have a family? Do you think he'll ever be independent? But answer me this. When do you think my life and my family's life and my child's life will ever be ordinary? And when do you think we will finally have the opportunity to no longer have to suffer? And I remember answering by tapping into my own life experiences and reaching into my soul. And I remember stating that there's nothing about your life or your family's life that's ever going to be ordinary again. Because I believe that you were created and your family was created, but most importantly, that your child was created not simply to be ordinary, but to be extraordinary. And I truly don't believe that God would ever create anyone with the idea of making them have to suffer. But you will have to struggle. And it's through that struggle that you will find greatness. It is through that struggle you will come to find identity. It is through that struggle you will come to find purpose. It is through that struggle that you will come to find the Creator. The question that we all ask, the question that we all demand answers from, is why is it that if God is so great and so kind and so forgiving and so merciful, that why is it He allows for bad things to happen to otherwise such good people? And why is it, if God is so great and worthy of our praise, that there are some who walk among us that have to know a greater struggle, a greater hardship, and a greater challenge than others can possibly imagine or even attempt to understand? Well, ultimately, easy life does not always correspond to a good one. And often it is the case that those who have to know struggle, and those who have to know hardship, and those who have to know challenge, come to live their life with a greater sense of mission. They come to live their life with a greater sense of purpose. They come to live their life with a greater understanding as to why they were created, as to what they were sent here to do, as to what their mission truly is. It is ultimately through adversity that we come to know God. We come to empathize and understand the challenges and hardships and difficulties that our friends and our families and our neighbors tend to know and tend to appreciate. It is through struggle that we find our mission, that we understand our place. No, an easy life doesn't always mean a good one. And sometimes it is through that challenge and through that struggle and through that hardship that we're able to achieve greatness, and that we're able to live a life that is one that is blessed with meaning, purpose, focus, and understanding. It's interesting. We come to learn certain things as we go through life. So often when you face challenges and difficulties and hardships, people will often come to you and they'll say, "Oh, have you recovered? Oh, you look great." In life, you come to find that you don't always get to recover. But what you come to learn through the work that is taking place here in Cincinnati is that the people who don't focus necessarily on recovery, but rather adaptation, are the ones who thrive. That ability to adapt to a new life, that ability to adapt to a new circumstance, that ability to adapt to a new mission gives you a greater sense of purpose, understanding, and awareness. Now, I have been blessed in my life. I've had the opportunity of completing 20 marathons, and I've had the opportunity of completing the full Ironman competition in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. For those of you who are unfamiliar, the Ironman is a 2.4-mile swim followed by a 112-mile bike to be completed by a 26.2-mile run. The rules of the competition are quite simple. If you stop, if you rest, if you take a break, you run the risk of missing a cutoff. If you finish at 12:05 instead of 12 o'clock, it is like you were never even there. 2 years of effort, work, and energy will simply be for nothing. So I invite you to picture, if you would, the feeling you would have as you dive into a frigid body of water. The water temperature that morning of Lake Coeur d'Alene was 55 degrees. I invite you to imagine the feeling you would have to be the only blind person, only disabled person to be in such a competition. You repeatedly get kicked in the face by all the other swimmers, and since you can't see, you can't brace for the ensuing impact. You try to surface, but there's other people immediately above you. And lastly, other competitors become entangled and ensnared in the rope that connects you to your guide. The more you try to surface, the more you try to get your head above water, the quicker the rope constricts, and the quicker the rope constricts, the faster it starts taking you below the surface. You try to get oxygen, but it becomes impossible, and you start to feel that sense of drowning. The beauty of being with faith-based people is that you understand the value of this lesson. You understand the power of the Creator. It's at moments like this, when you come to be panicked, when you're fearful, when you're in pain, when you don't know what's going to happen next, that you come to find that that's when miracles happen. It is easy to have a relationship with the Creator when life is going well, when you're in good health, when your business knows no bounds. But the beauty of a real relationship is how is it when things aren't going so well, when there is pain, when there is setback, and when there is frustration. It is at that time that you're able to find that you can have a real relationship, a genuine relationship, and a lasting relationship. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to be disappointed with the Creator. For ultimately, the more that you have that emotion, the closer that you will ultimately get to Him. The more you will come to know Him, the more you will come to appreciate Him. For the more that you're able to see life at its essence, life at its core, and life in a way that you are truly given the opportunity to live it. It is moments like this that you come to find that miracles can happen and that miracles are real, because you come to find that ultimately, when you're scared and when you're in pain, that's when you come to realize that yes, the body may be mortal, the body may be infirmed, but it is the Spirit that knows no bounds. It is the Spirit that knows no limitation. It is the Spirit that, if given the opportunity, can truly transcend. You come to find that those who walk among us that have to know that struggle, that have to know that hardship, that have to know that pain, are given the blessing of resilience. They're given the blessing of strength, and they are given the blessing of true empathy, true connection, true understanding. God gives us these life experiences. The more challenging the life experience, the more we are expected to use it to impact the lives of other people. The harder the life experience, the more we are expected to use that knowledge, use that understanding, use that appreciation to improve and to enhance the life of another. So why is it that bad things happen to otherwise such good people? And why is it that there are some who walk among us that have to know this greater struggle and this greater hardship and this greater challenge than others can possibly imagine or even attempt to fathom? In the short time that I have left, I want to share with you a story. It was a beautiful day in New York Central Park. I was walking in the pedestrian lane. I've memorized the loop that serves as a circumference of the great park, so I'm able to walk without an escort. And as I walked in the pedestrian lane on a beautiful August morning, a bicyclist was traveling at a speed of an excess of 35 miles an hour. And due to his high rate of speed, he was unable to maintain control of his bike, and in doing so, veered into the pedestrian lane where I was walking, where he struck me directly in the back. A 35-mile-an-hour impact is catastrophic, to say the least. It required over 10 weeks of hospitalization at Mount Sinai Hospital. So we ask this question: so why, God, do you take someone who used athletics to find strength and to find purpose and to overcome blindness, and why would you strike them down? Make them have to live in a hospital? Not allow them to have those most simple pleasures of life? It's those simple things you really miss the most. You miss having the chance to use the bathroom or take a hot shower. You miss what it's like to be able to sleep through the night without having to writhe in an undescribable pain. People used to come and visit, and I'd always ask them, so tell me, where are you going to go after you leave the doors and the confines of the hospital? And they'd always say, oh, I'm going to go and visit some friends. I'm going to go pick up some groceries. I might catch a movie. They'd always say it in a very rudimentary, very mundane way. What this film festival is about, what the work that is being done is about, it's about the idea of expressing and understanding and appreciating the little things in life. It's the little things that we crave. It's the little things that we want. When you come in contact with a family, with someone with disability, what they want is those little things. They want to be able to go outside. They want to be able to go to the park. They want their child to go to school. They want to have a chance to be out in public. They want to live a life of normalcy. They crave the little things. They crave those things that make life worth living. Life is always about the little things. It's never about the big things. And the more that you crave those little things, the more that you want them, the more that you want to have a job, the more that you want to go to school, the more that you want to have a house, the more that you want to have a wife, the more that you want to have a family. Those are the things that go into life. That is what God gives us. That is the blessing. That is the essence. That is the core of creation. Celebrate the little things. When we spend time with people with disabilities, we're not doing a charity. We're ultimately given the chance to connect with God. We're ultimately given a chance to appreciate life, to experience life. We're ultimately given the opportunity to come to appreciate everything in life that should be celebrated. If there's one lesson that we could take today from our time together, is I'd urge you to celebrate the little victories. I'd urge you to have your family and your friends and your children celebrate the victories. There is no victory that is too small, that isn't worthy of praise, joy, and celebration. Celebrate them. Celebrate, in my case, I would celebrate the idea that I could sit up in bed. I would celebrate the idea that I could lift my leg. I would celebrate the idea that I could use a walker. And I would celebrate the idea that I could find my way to the nurse's station. Life is about sometimes having to say goodbye. Goodbye to your old life. Goodbye to your old experiences. But being able to embrace the new ones. You can't think about that at that point you were a 17-time marathoner and a one-time Ironman. And now you're just trying to get to the bathroom, or now you have to have someone carry you down the hall. You can't think about that. You celebrate the new chapter. You celebrate the fact that you are going to get on those feet again. You celebrate the fact that every step matters and every step counts, because this is an experience that you are given for a reason. You might not understand it. You might not appreciate it. You might not come to know why, but you know that you're part of something big. You know that you're part of something grand, and you know that you're part of something meaningful. And you celebrate those little victories. You celebrate why you're given those victories. It was about 2.5 years ago, and it was time for the New York City Marathon. As we ran through the streets of New York, this would be my 18th marathon, but my first after a catastrophic accident. Running the marathon on a shattered hip and crushed pelvis was going to be difficult, to say the least. And as we reached mile 18 and crossed the 59th Street Bridge and began running up First Avenue, I remember reaching up to the heavens and praying to the Creator and praying to God. I said, God, let me have this. Let me have this. I can work through this pain. The pain is indescribable, but I can work through this. But I simply need you to allow for me to cross the finish line without losing consciousness, without passing out, because the pain is becoming so intense. And yes, in life, that is when the miracles truly do happen. Because I remember as the pain became so severe that I was able to find a certain sense of peace. Peace with my new life, peace with my new circumstance, but most importantly, I was able to make my peace with God. So why is it that bad things happen to otherwise such good people? And why is it that there are some who walk among us that have to know this greater struggle and this greater hardship and this greater challenge than other people can possibly even attempt to understand? At a certain point in life, God does not want us to spend our time and our effort and our energy trying to get over it. He simply just wants us to get on with it. For those who know challenge, pain, and struggle are always the ones who will do what is hard to achieve no less than what is great. But for life experience, but for hardship and pain, I would not be as merciful and kind as a judge. So I end with this. Live your life the way that a great novel would impart it. The story that you are meant to tell. The story that must be shared. In life, there will always be numerous chapters. There'll be chapters of pain, setback, and frustration. But it's only through those chapters you can come to find hope, joy, and triumph. Let us celebrate life. Life for its good and life for its bad. But let us celebrate life the way God intended us to live it. The challenges and the struggles give rise to empathy and understanding. Let us use those life experiences to enhance and make those around us lives better. Let us celebrate who we are, the mission that we're a part of, and the blessing that God has given each and every one of us. Let us celebrate the idea that extraordinary things can, will, and must happen for us all. But most importantly, let us celebrate the notion that yes, there are some who have bodies that are mortal and infirmed, but they are the ones that are given the blessing of truly glorious, beautiful, and proud spirits.
Good morning. Let me first thank Justice Bernstein not only for the wonderful comments that he made this evening, but for the spirit that he brings to life, the way in which he exemplifies how we all can use him as a model for the way in which we each face challenges in our own life. Let's give him another hand, please. It's really my pleasure to be here. I'm representing both the Brueggemann Center for Dialogue at Xavier University, where I'm the executive director, as well as Interfaith Sensi, which is a spin-off that we created a couple of years ago. We recently sponsored an event with the Chamber of Commerce and the Freedom Center to bring Mahajan Banerjee, who is the leading voice who speaks about implicit bias, to Cincinnati. Those biases that we all have, which are totally unconscious. We're all aware of the biases that are obvious, that are out there, but in some ways it's the implicit biases that are more devastating. It's the difference between racism, which we can see, and the structural racism, which we often just bypass. At Harvard, they have a group of online tests on a range of groups of these implicit biases, and they do include the disadvantage in this, but they have all the wrong categories because they assume that the implicit bias against those who are challenged or who have disadvantages are the same as they would be against race and gender, when in fact they're quite different. What I would like to do today is to get each of you all to really speak about the biases that you see within each of your congregations and in your communities. At the Brueggemann Center, we really believe in the power of conversation, of bringing players from various sectors together around critical issues. The mission of the center and of Interfaith Sensi is really to move beyond dialogue to collaboration, because it is the only way we can really effect change. We believe that the interfaith community is one of the most important emerging sources of social capital in our community, in our nation, and in our world, that must provide the much-needed moral foundations in these challenging times. Let me introduce our faith leaders, and then what I want to do, just in the sake of saving time, because our time is brief, to ask a cluster of questions and let each of you jump in wherever you feel comfortable jumping in on those questions. First is the Most Reverend Joseph R. Binzer of the Catholic Archdiocese. Second is Acharya Kailashji, the Hindu Temple of Greater Cincinnati. Rabbi Margie Myers, who is the President Emeritus of MARC. Imam Hossam Musa from the Islamic Center of Greater Cincinnati, and Reverend Ennis Tate, the pastor of the Church of the Living God. If I could get each of you to speak briefly about whether and how you see bias and implicit bias against the disabled manifesting in your congregations and your communities with whom you work. And then to speak about how we all as faith leaders are working and can work together to bring these about. And let's just some examples. As you do your scriptural cycles within your congregations and you write your homilies, how often do you focus specifically on the disabled? What are you doing with the Sunday schools to teach our children about this before such biases become ingrained patterns in their behavior? Are we actually dealing with this before these things really get set in? And how can our churches, temples, and mosques work together to help us all accept that those who are disabled or challenged in various ways really are an important and contributing part of the diversity of our community? And why don't we start with Rabbi Myers at this end, and we'll work our way down.
Okay.
And if I have follow-ups, I'll just do that. Thank you.
Fine. Excuse me. I'd like to kind of zero in on youth and what we are doing, what hasn't happened, but should happen. We've using the old commercial, we've come a long way, but we really have a long way to go. Traditionally, Judaism had a rule that if you were, for instance, deaf or mute, you could not be counted part of the official congregation. You could not have a bar mitzvah because you couldn't hear the scripture. I want to come all the way up to 2017 and say that we now have inclusion and I think inclusion is the word we need in terms of bias also. When we see each other, when we're with each other, we tend to have fewer biases. We have to be out there with everyone. But we now have, through technology, the ability for those who can't even speak to chant a Torah portion. We now have, through technology and the willingness to work with people, the ability for any child to be part of the community and to grow into the congregation. Our camps have become very inclusive. There was a time when we tried, I'm speaking of the Reform movement in Judaism, tried to set up a separate camp for children with disabilities. And we learned that we really need to include them for our sake and for theirs. And so we've become much more aware. There's much more to do, but we really are much more aware and in trying to include children to come into the camps and to the fullest extent that they can to participate. Even sometimes, for instance, and then I'll let someone else speak, to just as an example of some children who are on the autism spectrum who really have problems, and we know this with loud noises or with huge crowds. And simply something like in the Sunday schools or at the camping situations, having earphones available for them so they can be muted and they can feel more comfortable. Just to be aware of other people's needs from earliest ages so that our children are aware from earliest ages that other people have needs as well. So as I said, we have a long way to go, but I think that we have come a long way with the children.
And let's go to the other end, and with the Acharya College Chief, you would do it, and we'll just work our way towards the middle.
In our community, in our temple, and locally here, we don't have much kind of these things with the disabled, but there are a few in the community, and we approach them, and if they need any help, the temple or we priest go and talk to them, give them a blessings, and they also come to the temple. Not during the, it's a parents' desire that they don't want to come in during those congregation time, but they do come off time. The temple hours are very much extended, so anybody can come anytime, and they like to come, but we welcome all the time. It's no restriction for any disabled in congregation time as well. And in our religion, there are so many great saints and sages who were disabled, and they led a whole congregation, wrote so many prayers and have a good vision in their inner life. So disability doesn't stop, because it says in one of the prayers that the God's grace makes the dumb man eloquent and the cripple cross the mountains. So any disabled person who has an extra ability to go over all these things. So temple supports all the disabled people also. Thank you.
And Reverend Benzer, if you could.
Thank you, and thanks for inviting me to be here this morning. Whenever I go to a meeting, I try to learn something, and I've learned a lot by being here. Within the Archdiocese of Cincinnati, the Catholic Archdiocese of Cincinnati, St. Rita's School for the Deaf, which is out by General Electric in Evendale has been in existence for more than 100 years, or about 100 years, I guess, trying to help children in particular who are unable to hear. Within our churches, many of the churches have ramps that allow people not only to get into the church, but also to get up into the sanctuary area in order to participate, whether it's being an altar server or being a reader at Mass or helping to distribute Holy Communion during the Mass. I confess to you that I usually don't think about preaching about disabilities unless the scripture passages speak about those. The Bible is filled with stories of people who are blind, people who are deaf and dumb, people who have withered hands or are unable to walk. It's at those moments when I think about preaching about disabilities that people have. And as Judge Bernstein said many times, I wish I could have memorized his talk, because it was so beautiful about how we care for one another. But we're taught, Catholics are taught, Christians are taught, Jews are taught, that we're all created in God's image and likeness, and that comes from the very first book of the Bible, the book of Genesis. And one of the other great teachings is do unto others as you would have others do unto you. What my parents emphasized to me as a child, what I think about often in my conversations with people, we refer to that as the golden rule. But that's one of the many rules we follow in society that are actually found within the scriptures. The older I get, the more I look at life as a mosaic. And at our cathedral here in Cincinnati, just a few blocks away, there's a beautiful mosaic that has an image on it because of the different colored tiles and the different size tiles that are part of that mosaic. And without all those tiles being there, the beautiful picture it portrays would not exist. And I look at society that way too. I look at everyone in this room that way, that there's a mosaic of people who are here, each one of us being a small tile, but a beautiful picture is here. And so we need each other. And we need to be concerned about each other. And what I need to do as I'm serving the people locally is to be more aware of how I can do that for those who are struggling in their faith, because they're one of those tiles in mosaic, but also for those who might have disabilities, because they too are one of those tiles in that beautiful mosaic also.
And Reverend Tate?
A lot of the things that we struggle with sometimes, especially in the Christian faith, is trying to really accept people for who they are. But according to our tradition, our faith, the Lord Jesus accepted everybody for who they were. He stood around everybody. He fellowshiped with everybody. And so that's a practice that we have adopted at the Church of the Living God, that everybody is a part of God's family. We're all God's children. We respect the fact that we're all different and we all come from different backgrounds. And so we are intentional about creating an environment or an atmosphere where everybody that walks through the doors of the Church of the Living God, we're somebody. We are intentional about following Christ's command to love everybody because love is universal, it's unconditional. And I find in my own practices that it really helps for me to respect and embrace all people, no matter what their differences are. I do believe that there is a tragedy that has occurred in the Christian faith, and that is we've allowed our children to disconnect from the practices of the church. Proverbial wisdom has always been prescribed that we train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. Christ even taught us that we suffer the little children to come unto us and forbid them not. We've worked so diligently to separate children, and we've lost the connection, so now they don't want to come to the church. They don't want to come and be a part of those things that we're teaching. So unfortunately, they have not learned to respect people and the differences that people have. So my example for them is to participate in events like this, where I begin to learn and respect those who are different from me, but embrace it with the fact and understanding that God expects this of me because Christ did it as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And Imam Musa.
Thank you. Thank you, esteemed guests and fellow clergymen and women. It is truly an honor to listen to you, Justice Bernstein, and also there's another connection, the University of Michigan connection, so go blue. The topic Justice Bernstein talked about hits home to me. What many of you may not know is that I am a child of a disabled mother. My mother was born with a very severe disability, and my father, yet knowing that she was severely disabled, married her. And I wondered at one point in time, logically speaking, I asked my father, you knew that my mother was disabled, yet you not only married her, but you both, God blessed you with 5 children. Why? And my father responded to me and said, son, he's also an imam. He's the oldest practicing imam in Michigan, your home state, the great state of Michigan. And he said, I asked myself, if I were your mother, what would I want done to me or for me? So I married your mother and took her to the best health care that is provided. And this is in the early 80s. He drove his big Caprice, Chevy Capri, and drove from Detroit to Chicago to other places to seek medical attention to help my disabled mother, his beloved wife. I look back and see what a blessing it is indeed, as Justice Bernstein said, that from this disabled lady, wonderful lady, God blessed them with 5 amazing, healthy, bright, achieving children, the least of which has a bachelor's degree, 2 teachers, 1 PharmD, 1 engineer and imam, and 1 also another engineer. Religiously speaking, Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, said, وَهَلْ تُرْزَقُونَ وَتُنْصَرُونَ إِلَّا بِضُعَفَائِكُمْ, giving us a very positive and hopeful perception of our vulnerable and so-called weak. He says, and do you think that you are provided for by your Creator and helped and blessed except through and because of the weak among you? Not only did he say that, but it is recorded in our Islamic history that when he left the city of Al-Madinah, he appointed in his place as the chief of all Muslims and all people that lived in that city, which also were Jews, Muslims, Christians, and people of other faiths, Abdullah ibn Maktoum as the chief of the entire city, and he was a blind man. So yes, indeed, there's a strong connection between high-achieving people, amazing people like Justice Bernstein, and our Islamic faith inspiring us through the example of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, that even if someone physically their sight is taken away, that does not limit them from being able to lead the entire nation, if not the entire city. What do we do in our schools and what can we do? I think, according to my understanding and knowledge, that our wonderful Sunday school at the Islamic Center of Greater Cincinnati here in your backyard in Westchester, Ohio, which has over 600 students, I believe, in our Sunday school, led by our great principal, Brother Ghulam Asif, who's right there volunteering as a principal, and Sister Shabana, one of the people that spoke earlier, God bless her, an amazing activist and mother of another so-called disabled child. She, according to my knowledge, is the first one and the only one in the entire country that has in our Muslim Sunday schools a program for children with special needs. For that, she deserves a round of applause. Please give her that round of applause. I think I see today the inner blessing that God gave you, Sister Shabana, so you can serve the rest of our underserved, vulnerable children through the blessing of your child. And last but not least, can we do more? Absolutely. I think I need to preach some of these stories more often in my sermons on Fridays and other days. And I think we need to improve in all the ways that we can for all of those that we can serve more better. Thank you.
Thank you. In thanking the panel and thanking all of you for being here, I think that it's clear that one of the challenges that we are all faced as faith leaders in this community is to integrate these stories and these challenges and this marginalized community more effectively into the lives of our religious communities. And just as a small ad for interfaithcincy.org, one of the things that we are really, as I mentioned, are focused upon is collaborative efforts. So if you go to the website and you'll look on there, the Brueggemann Center is now giving grants. Any faith community who will join with a faith community of any other tradition on any community engagement project, for example, aiding the disabled, will give a grant. Any youth group who will join with a youth group from another faith tradition on any community engagement project will give a grant. And not only will we give a grant, we will employ the resources of Xavier University to help you with those projects. Go to the website. If you have stories that need to be told about what you're doing in your communities, about the work that you're doing to help the disabled, write on the newsletters or write for the website. We would appreciate that. My message going forward is there's strength in numbers. We can all do what we can do within our own congregations and our own communities, but if we work together, we are stronger and we build a stronger community, not only for the disabled, but for ourselves. Thanks everybody for being here today, and God bless.
Thank you, our esteemed faith leaders, for guiding us on how to be inclusive. Thank you, Justice Bernstein, for your inspiring and uplifting address. And many thanks to Deborah Pinger, Director of LAD, and the force behind all of this. We appreciate all you do. Please stand. As we approach end of this program, no doubt we are moved in some way being part of this interfaith gathering. Namaste. I'm Shilpa Desai. These films and more are for you to enjoy this weekend and in your faith communities. We will follow up with details about how you can get involved. I know some of us may not be sure how to best accommodate or support people with disabilities. Well, we have here people in Cincinnati who are the experts. These experts are from the host agencies that you see referenced in your program guide. Shortly at the end of this program, they will move to the tables lining the back wall. Please do visit them. Ask questions about how to support children and adults with autism, mental illness, blindness, hearing impairment, cerebral palsy, and other motor issues and developmental disabilities. Please spend some time getting to know these experts. Ask them questions. Let's take this time to connect with the host agencies. Finally, on behalf of ReelAbilities, thank you. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for your part in this wonderful interfaith event and the ReelAbilities Film Festival. Let's go see some movies. Thank you.
So I'm not a podium guy. I absolutely despise the podium. I never know what to do with my arms. I'm always banging on it. So I'm special. They gave me a microphone. So the first thing I want to do is start off by getting to know my audience a little bit. And because this is the veterans reception, I just want to know who in here is a veteran, but not before you go and hooting, hollering, and screaming and banging your tables and stuff. Let's just go in order. We'll start out with the Hollywood, easy, I've got it made, Air Force. Who in here is Air Force? All right. All right, Navy. Got any Navy in here? Good job, you won. And I thought the Army was the Army of one. Who knew? All right, how about Army? Oh, guys, that was weak. You're disappointing me. So there's sort of two left. There's the half guys, and they were kind of kicked out of the DOD, and now they're DOJ. Any Coasties? All right, good. Now back to DOD. There is one branch left, right? I think you guys know who it is. Marines? Good. Now I know how much I have to dumb down my speech. I will speak slowly. Anyway, I am Sergeant First Class Mike Schlitz, 14-year Army veteran. Ended up medically retiring after my injury in 2010, mostly because I wasn't really happy with what the Army wanted me to do. So for a lot of people who think that guys get injured that have to leave the service, that's not necessarily true. In 2009, I was actually working with the Sergeant Major of the Army, who was Sergeant Major of the Army Preston at the time, and the Army G1, Sergeant Major Wheels, on whether or not I was going to stay on active duty or go ahead and get out. What I wanted to do at the time is rewrite what the pre-deployment briefings were going to be about. Because before I deployed, we talked about, well, if you get killed, this is what you need to do. You need to make sure you have your power of attorney. You need to make sure you have your will. You need to make sure you have all your stuff in order, which is great if you die. But what happens if you get injured? There was no talk about it. There was this stigma that nobody was going to get injured. And I get that you want to bring everybody home, and I get that, you don't want to talk about it. But people were being seriously injured, and especially at the height of the war, and they weren't prepared for it. They didn't talk about, well, if you're injured and sent to the hospital and you have a family and you have a mortgage, do you have enough money to bring your spouse down? Are you going to pull your kids out of school and put them in new schools? There's a magnitude of things that we weren't prepared for. And so I was working with the Sergeant Major of the Army at the time, and I wanted to do it, and he loved the idea, and so did the Army G1. But it really came down to who I'd work for, how we'd implement it. And there was still a big part about that time in 2009 that they knew the drawdown was coming in 2010. And I was coming out on the Master Sergeant list, and they said, I'll tell you what, why don't you just hang out in San Antonio and be a first on a bunch of wounded people? Which is great. I think I could have done that. But then the Army G1 Sergeant Major goes, that'll be your last promotion. You won't be able to compete anymore. And I'm like, I'm not going to do the same job with no hopes of progression. I don't know anybody in life that just wants a job and not be able to work for something bigger and better. And at that time, I had already started my speaking. I was already doing veteran events. And I realized that the power of a civilian is greater than that of a Sergeant First Class or a First Sergeant in the Army. So I decided to go ahead and retire. And right away, I started plugging away. Started speaking in front of Congress, started getting myself in the Pentagon. I've worked with the last two presidential administrations. I have plans to work with this one, and it's all for our community. Because the last thing I want somebody to remember me by is, that he got blown up and that's all he ever did. Disabled veterans and just people with handicaps and stuff, we're just like everybody else. We have goals, we have dreams, we have things that we want to accomplish, and they all different, and they're changed from what our goals was. I mean, my entire adult life was my military career. I put You know, I'm divorced. I put that ahead. My career came first. Even my own, like my mother, my brother. My brother's a little oddball. He's been married 4 times. So he has a wife for every generation he's been alive. and I've only been to 1 wedding because it was always my career. So I just wanted to keep pushing on. And I don't want, now when I look at life and realizing I missed so many opportunities and so many things that I put in my career, I don't want my career to be the only thing that I'm also known for. And I've been an adrenaline junkie. I love doing extreme sports. I still jump out of airplanes. I was actually the first person about 3 years ago in Red Bull history. Anybody know what the flute togs are? And for those that don't know what the Red Bull flute tog is, basically it's a bunch of people that might not be quite so smart building aircrafts to launch off a ramp into the water. And thousands of people come out to watch these things fly, but mostly crash. And so a bunch of my ranger buddies came together and built me this craft, and they said, "We want you to fly it." I'm like, hell yes. And so I go there, and, there was no real anything said about me flying this thing until the morning of. And I'm sitting in my hotel room, and the team calls me down and says, "Hey, we got the Red Bull officials here, and they need to talk to you now." And I show up, and they're like, "You have no hands." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's why I'm going to be an awesome flyer." And so they're like, "Yeah, we can't do that. What happens if you crash, and how are you going to get out of the water?" I'm like, "You got divers." I'm like, if they can't get to me, why are they in the water? And we went back and forth, and luckily the divers that they had come from like the special operations realm. And they're like, "Dude, do you feel comfortable?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm ready to go." And Red Bull was like, "All right." And so, one of the parts of the Red Bull, it's always, they build these crafts, and you're supposed to do a skit, and you're supposed to do that. So we get up there, and we're on this stage, we're on this aircraft carrier, and they got the big cameras and stuff on there, and we had to do a skit. But we only found out like 10 minutes before that we had to do a skit. So I'm like, "Hey, how about you guys rip my prosthetics off and tell them we have to cut weight of the aircraft?" And so we get up there, and everybody's hollering, and then they pull my prosthetics off, and the whole place like, whew. Quiet. It was awesome. So then it's time for me to start my flying adventure. And so the team, you get 4 people to push you off this aircraft carrier. And it's like I came off that carrier ready to fly, and I paused and went straight down. Well, it was almost built similar to a hang glider with parachute silk. And so when I went under the water and I went to come up, I kind of got caught under the silk a little bit. But being a paratrooper, I understood that if you ever have done a water jump, you can actually push up on the silk of the parachute and take a breath of air and then continue on. So I took a breath of air and I popped back out, and then the divers were on top of me in no time. And my teammates were like, "You should have heard it again. Like when you were in the water and you didn't pop up right away." And it was just quiet. And I'm like, I just relive that every now and again, because oftentimes, if that would have been anybody else flying that aircraft, they would have just cheered at the crash, and that would have been it. But because I was disabled, they viewed it differently. They were expecting the worst to already come out. And it wasn't even like that. It was just I was out there having a good time, just like everybody else, ready to conquer the world and crash. And it really shows the ups and downs. So what I love about the ReelAbility Film Festival is a lot of these films show the disabilities and show us as the best, but it also shows us when we have our dark days or when we're not quite on top of our game. I've been made fun of kind of a little bit today because technology is great when it works, but this arm has been going down and up all day long. And so I've had to ask for extra help today. I'm not above asking for help. If I need it, I need it. And when we're talking about veterans transitioning, oftentimes we need help. The majority of our adult life, whether it be in school, going on to becoming an officer, or you come right out of high school and you serve your country, whether it's 4 years, 10 years, 20 years, you need help when you get out, because this is a different world. We're not used to it. It's not our routine. So to say, hey, can you help me fill out a resume? Hey, can you give me an introduction at the place you work? These are all very simple things to do. Very simple, can you help me do these things? But we as veterans and we as people with maybe some disabilities have to be willing to be humble enough to ask for that help. And so that's why I love these, because these videos, these short films, these films are showing that. When I watched that wheelchair, I saw guys that have passion, that are willing to get up every day, maybe get a little bumped and bruised and take some scars. But at the end of the day, what are they going to do? They're going to succeed. And I believe in the veteran community. I believe our veterans are going to succeed. Whether or not they have a few scars at the end of the day is yet to be said. But I believe in it. So I really appreciate you guys allowing me a few minutes of your time tonight. If you have any questions for me, do not hesitate to come find me later on. I'm here for you guys. Thank you for coming out.
One housekeeping note, tomorrow morning there is a veterans breakfast, and if you don't already have your tickets, tickets are available out through the door at the box office. You can still buy those tickets. Would love to see everyone there in the morning. In just a few minutes, you will be moving on downstairs to theater number 2, again, to go see Recovering. And so many veterans, and the job that I do in broadcast news, and I've been at a few different stations, and I've always tried to work with veterans and tell their stories. And I've told some of those stories where veterans come home and they try to figure out something to do to be able to heal and process. And I actually interviewed 2 veterans in Milwaukee who walked all the way across the country to the California coast, and that was their way to process and deal with PTSD and some of the scars left behind after war. So the story that you will see tonight, the movie you will see tonight, is very inspirational because these veterans chose cycling as a way to heal and process what they were going through. So I'm excited to see it. I have not seen it yet. I know many of you are anxious to see it as well. So again, Theater 2 downstairs. Thank you so much for supporting ReelAbilities, and thank you for being here tonight.